Welcome to the Josh Bolton Show, where we dive into interesting and inspiring conversations. And now, your host, Josh Bolton.
All right, cool. Just do that. All right, so we'll talk about. I guess we'll just talk about the book. Did we talk about the 6 P's last time?
I think that was one of those we were going to go over, and I think I only got like 1 or 2 out of you. So we can definitely make that a priority today.
So we only talked about 1 or 2. What did we talk about the rest of the time?
It was just your book.
Okay.
I was the mergers and acquisitions. I'm like, well, how would you find a client for this, and why? What rules and all that?
All right, cool. Ask me whatever you want to ask me.
Perfect. I'll just chop all that out. Can you give everyone a little intro of yourself?
Do you also record an intro?
I do like a little recording and saying, hey, this is what me and Michelle went over today. You should definitely listen to the end and buy her stuff.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So just introduce myself.
Yeah.
And just say I'm Michelle Seiler-Tucker.
Yes, that's it. I'm Michelle Seiler-Tucker. I do this, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't remember doing that on your podcast last time.
I've gotten better, but this is the first awkward flop of it all.
What's that?
So this is the first like awkward, like, wait, you're just supposed to say yourself. Hang on, let me put a pause. I'll just chop all that out.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Today we have Michelle Seiler-Tucker. I might have said that wrong. Seiler. See, I knew it. She was going to correct me.
Seiler.
Honestly, we're in for a blast. I had her on earlier, and we went to town and had fun. But today we're going to talk about the 6 P's and then her audiobook of Exit Rich. Michelle?
Hi, Josh.
Hello.
Thank you for having me back on.
Thank you for coming back on.
So I'll tell the audience a little bit about me if they don't remember. I am Michelle Seiler-Tucker from Long Beach, California, but I'm in New Orleans now. And I've been in this industry a little over 20 years. I'm a mergers and acquisitions master intermediary, senior business analyst, certified mergers and acquisitions professional, Wall Street Journal, USA Today bestseller for Exit Rich, international keynote speaker. I've been in this industry a little over 20 years in the mergers and acquisitions industry. And we really specialize in buying, selling, fixing, and growing companies. We've sold hundreds upon hundreds of businesses. We don't just sell businesses. We help buyers buy businesses. We've bought businesses and flipped them. We also help business owners fix their business, grow their business so they can, really grow it into a sustainable, scalable, and sellable asset when they're ready to sell.
100%. That's it's one of those, a lot of business owners don't realize that you do need to keep the short-term goals, but also keep that long-term goal that eventually, unless you plan on keeping this as a job forever, you do need to figure out either how to work on it or sell it to someone.
Yeah, and keeping it as a job is a fatal mistake.
It is.
I have a woman that called me from Dallas, Texas. Her husband dropped dead of a heart attack at the age of 45 and left her with a mountain of debt. Wanted to see if I could sell her business to get her out of that debt. But he didn't have a business. He had a job. He had a construction company. He had all subcontractors. He had no employees. He had no people. He had really no business. All the data was in his head. He didn't have any process and procedures. And when he died, the business died. So the bottom line is you should never treat your business as a job. You should treat your business as a valuable asset as it is and set your family up for success, not for failure.
Oh, 100%. And that's the biggest one now. Like when I approach things, actually one person asked, he not through like taxes or whatever, he got an extra like $3,000 or $4,000. He's like, what do I do with it? I'm like, treat that as an opportunity, not to go spend it on Apple products. And I'm like, invest it. Yeah, it's not going to pay you right now, but it's one of those, you might be able to get to the point it's automated. And then you're just literally generating money when you sleep too.
Absolutely. That's what we call mailbox money.
Yes. So like I mentioned earlier, the 6 P's, what are the 6? And then can we get into the first one?
Yeah. So let's talk about why the 6 P's are important first. So like Steve Forbes, who endorsed my book, Exit Rich, Steve Forbes states that 80% of businesses on the market will never sell. 80% will never sell. That should be a huge wake-up call for your audience. and for all business owners, because that means you have less than a 20% chance of success when you go to sell your company. Those are pretty terrible statistics for business owners that have made huge sacrifices along the way and poured their heart, their soul, their money, their energy into growing their companies to wind up going out of business, selling for pennies on the dollar, even, filing for bankruptcy. And the reason why 80% never sell is because business owners don't create a business that somebody wants to buy. It's that simple. A lot of business owners create themselves a glorified job that they go to work at every day and call themselves a business owner versus a business that actually works for them. You want a business where you can take off a month and your business is going to run like a well-oiled machine without you.
Mm-hmm.
And the other reason why businesses don't sell is because business owners don't think about selling their company until a catastrophic event has occurred. And that catastrophic event could be internal or external. External is this pandemic we've been sitting in for the last 2.5 years. Internal is health issues, divorce, partner disputes, death, like in the case of this lady who called me from Dallas. It is not ever a good idea to sell your business during a catastrophic event because your business isn't doing well. Your business is typically trending downward, not upward. And your business is not going to be worth anything at that point. So you really want to sell your business when your business is doing well, when your business is in its prime, and you want to build a business that's sustainable, scalable, that someone wants to buy. And you do that based upon what I call the 6 Ps. And this is the infrastructure of your company. When you go to build a house, and any home builders out here, when you go to build a house, if you're not building a house, you hire, a legitimate contractor. And what's the first thing they do when they go to build a house? They dig a hole really deep and they lay the foundation. They put in all the wiring, right?
Mm-hmm.
They put in all the wiring, they pour the cement, they make sure they're not going to have foundation issues. And then they build the house on top of that. If you don't have a solid foundation, your house is going to come crashing down if you have a strong wind, if you have a hurricane like we have here in New Orleans all the time. And so the business is the same way. If you don't lay that foundation before you start building your company, then any type of event could occur that's going to knock your business flat to the ground. So the first P is people. You don't build a business. This is where people get it wrong. You don't build a business, you build people, and people build the business. So business owners have to get unstuck. Most business owners are stuck in their business, working in their business. Business owners need to work on their business, not in it. They need to hire their weaknesses. Entrepreneurs have weaknesses. We're not great at everything. Most of us are visionaries who are not COOs, or CFOs. So you really got to hire your weaknesses, focus on your strengths, work on your business, not in your business, and get the right people in the right seats. A lot of times business owners have good people, but they have them in the wrong seats. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to ask the who question. Who does marketing? Who answers the phones? Who opens the door? Who handles customers? Who handles manufacturing, logistics, quality control, legal issues, accounting? Who handles all the intricate details in the business? The who should never be you, Josh.
Yes.
The who should never be you. And that's the problem. Entrepreneurs are control freaks. I think if I want it done right, I have to do it all, and I have to have the finger in every pie. Well, you'll never grow that way. If you can't learn to delegate and build the right team, you'll never be able to build a business.
100%.
And that's, really the most important thing. And that's why everybody's like, well, why do you start with people? Because without people, you don't get nothing done. It's just going to be you. If you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant.
Exactly. That's what I tell a lot of people, Mike. It's hard. And entrepreneurs, like you said, we want to control everything, but the best control is just pick the right people and let them do it. And then you just facilitate whatever they need.
Well, yes, but you also should inspect what you expect. Trust but verify. That's how 3 out of 5 companies get embezzled every year, is because they just go let them do it, but there's no checks and balances in place. There's no oversight. So
True.
you do have to let go, but you also have to let go with caution. You still have to trust but verify. Inspect what you expect. Inspect what you expect. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah, I was just oversimplifying. I lost a lot of value on that.
So that's people. And then the next one is product. You know, you got to look at your industry and look at your industry, your product, your service, and ask yourself, is it on the way up or is it on the way out? You know, do I have an Amazon? I'm in my prime. You have an Amazon and you're in your prime, that's when you sell. Or do you have a Blockbuster and you're about to go bust?
Right.
So you want to sell when you're in your prime. And then you want to look at your industry and ask yourself, you know, how can I innovate? Because here's the bottom line. When I wrote Saving Business for More Than It's Worth in 2013, did the research, I learned that 90% of all startups will go out of business in the first 5 years. Startups were at great risk, but everybody really knows that. What nobody knows is that when I wrote Exit Rich in 2019 and did the exact same research, I learned that the business landscape has flip-flopped. Only 30% of startups are going out of business now.
Mm-hmm.
Because startups are much more problem-oriented, solution-oriented. They identify the problem and they're solution-oriented. Mm-hmm. Startups now are looking at how to solve problems. They're not just going and building another coffee shop or another ice cream store or another restaurant that's going to end up going out of business. But out of 27.6 million companies, those businesses that have been in business for 10 years or longer, 70% of them are going out of business. 70. That is terrible. And the reason for that is lack of innovation, lack of marketing. You're either growing or dying. There's no in between. And so marketing and innovation are key. So you need to look at your industry and really check out your competition and, you know, check out what's happening, because consumer buying habits have changed dramatically. And if you don't keep innovating and marketing and creating wow experiences for your clients, guess what? Your competitors will do it for you. So, and here's the other thing too. The restaurant industry died during the pandemic because the restaurant industry has one profit center. They get paid when you go there and eat, when you dine in or dine out.
Yeah, that's it.
They don't have any e-commerce. They don't have private label products that they're wholesaling, you know. So all industries should have, you know, congruent revenue streams. All industries should have congruent revenue streams. So one dies, you have another one. I have multiple companies. So if one company doesn't do so well 1 year, guess what? I got 3 other ones, 4 other ones, 5 other ones that do well.
Right. And
I always say they should be congruent. You know, for me, they don't have to be congruent because I have a lot of experience in many different industries. But for a restaurant, I want a restaurant to go open up an electrical company or a landscape company. You follow me?
Yeah.
And so that's products. And then you have processes. Processes will make or break your company. Processes are the difference between making money and going broke. So you have to design your processes with the customer experience in mind. And, you know, really survey your clients and ask them, what do you want when you do business with us? What will make your life easier? What will make it easier for you to do business with our company? Because guess what? Whoever makes it easiest for the consumer to buy your products and services is the company that's winning. Amazon winning because Amazon makes it so easy to practically buy a horse on Amazon and have it delivered the next day. So you have to get into simplifying things and making them easy. Make things easy. Make the experience easy for your clients and painless for your clients. You know, if you make that experience difficult, they're not going to want to keep doing business with you. So it's kind of like did you ever watch the movie The Founder?
No, but you're like the fourth person. I'm going to take note.
Okay, so you should have watched it on the first person.
That's kind of like this is like at least 3 people. I need to write that down.
Yes, okay. You do. And what's interesting about The Founders, it's based upon the McDonald's brothers who started McDonald's, but they're not the ones that blew up McDonald's. Ray Kroc blew up McDonald's. But what's interesting about this is back in the 1940s, the McDonald brothers wanted to start a fast food restaurant because there weren't any. There were dine-in or drive-ups, not drive-thrus. And the food was always cold in drive-thrus. The orders were always wrong. It always took like 30 to 45 minutes to get your order. So McDonald's said, we're going to create a fast food restaurant, fast food process. And we're going to design it around our customer's experience. We want our customers to experience great tasting food. It's hot, fast, 30 seconds or less. They design their processes around their customer's experience, which is why you can eat at McDonald's anywhere in the world and get the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that was done back in 1940. But most owners, they develop their processes around the owner's agenda. I'll give you some examples. Doctor's offices, what are their hours?
Inconvenience, usually like 9 to 5.
9 to 5 when we're all working.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually Monday to Thursday, and then they're usually closed on Fridays, open till 1 or 2 on Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So my husband and I, we own medical clinics, we own multidisciplinary clinics. So my husband and I said, okay, let's design our hours, our processes around the customer's experience. We want our customers to experience flexible hours. So we'll open 3 nights a week till 7:30 at night.
That's
and we'll
genius.
open a half a day on Saturday or 2. Yeah. So that's what you have to look at your business and find out what your clients want and come up with 3 things. No more than 3, but you need 3 things, like McDonald's did. And then you want to make sure you document them. You have processes and procedures and policy manuals and everything like that. And you have SOP checklists, because McDonald's can fire somebody on the drive-through line and within 30 minutes have a brand new hire running that drive-through line because they read the SOPs.
Mm-hmm.
Easy.
So
you want to make sure you do that. You want to make sure you have employment contracts. You want to make sure you have non-competes for your management team. And then the next one is proprietary. So proprietary is the highest value driver. So let me give you a quick crash course in evaluations. If you have a business that has under $1 million in EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. And your business is going to trade for anywhere from 1.5 to 3, maybe 3.5. But if you have a business that has over $1 million in EBITDA, the multiples start at 4, 5, 6, 7, and up.
okay.
So, and then if you have these proprietary synergies, these proprietary assets, they can take you from a 5 to 7 to 8 to a 10. So there's 6 pillars to proprietary. I'll try to explain them rather quickly.
Okay.
So first and foremost is branding. The more well branded you are, the more I can sell your company for, as long as your brand is relevant in the mind of the consumer. Nobody's buying Toys R Us because it's not relevant anymore. Nobody's buying Blockbusters because it's not relevant anymore.
Right.
What's the most valuable brand in the world? Do you know?
Apple, or is it Amazon for you?
Just stick with your first
Apple.
choice. They always told you when you take a test in school, stick with your first guess.
Okay.
So Apple is worth $389 billion. Billion.
I thought it was like 3 trillion now.
What?
I thought it was a $3 trillion company or something like that.
Well, it is a $3 trillion company. I'm talking about just the brand itself.
Oh, okay.
Just the brand is worth $389 billion without the cash flow, without the real estate, without all the IP, intellectual property, without all the inventory. You add all that up together, and yes, it's in the trillions, but just the brand alone is worth $389 billion.
Wow.
So you need to build your brand. I mean, when investors go to buy these big companies, they're looking to see how well branded this company is, right? So Amazon's in the top 10, Coca-Cola's in the top 10, McDonald's is in the top 10. Then trademarks. But, there's lots of mistakes that business owners make with trademarks. You should trademark your company name, your slogan, your logo, everything. If you have anything unique to you, like the 6P method is unique to me, I have that trademark. So you want to make sure you go and trademark your proprietary assets. Most business owners will go think of a name, then they'll go to GoDaddy and they'll go, yes, I got the .com. I know, because I've done that. And then they go to their local state and their state, and then they'll get a state trademark, but they never check the federal database to make sure that federal trademark is available. So you can receive a cease and desist letter in the mail and have to stop using that company name, and then you have to start rebranding all over again. So you want to make sure you do that. And you know what? Before you go follow that trademark, put a little TM behind your name, behind your logo, behind anything that's unique to you, so that you at least claiming it. And if you claimed it for 5-6 years or more, then you could possibly win a trademark suit. Okay, but it's very important to do this the right way. But just go apply for the federal trademark. It's like, it doesn't cost more than $1,000. It's inexpensive.
Right.
And then also products. People don't think about this, Josh. They don't think about products. They have a company that got a trademark for each one of their products because each one of their products is unique to a different retail chain. One's a TJ Maxx, one's a Marshalls. So it's very important to get your products trademarked too. And patents are huge. I mean, if you watch Shark Tank, every single shark asks, do you have a patent pending? Do you have a patent? Do you have a utility patent? So patents are big too. And so contracts are extremely valuable. Manufacturing contracts, distribution contracts, vendor contracts, contracts with franchisors and franchisees. Client contracts are really valuable to business owners, to buyers, because buyers want to buy recurring revenue. So if you have a recurring model, buyers will pay a higher multiple for that. But the biggest mistake that business owners make is they don't put the transferability clause in their contract. And 98% of all sales are asset sales, not stock sales. So if you miss that 2%, so if that 2% is if your buyer is an asset sale, not that 2% of a stock sale, and you don't have a transferable contract and your buyer won't agree to a stock sale, you have to go to your clients and ask them to sign a consent to transfer. But guess what? Now your clients know you're selling the company. And what if that deal falls apart?
Yeah.
And we have a media company that has 2,000 clients on a subscription model. They're going to go to all 2,000 clients. But be proactive and start taking. That's why you need to read Exit Rich, listen to Exit Rich, because all of these golden nuggets are in Exit Rich. And in databases, Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp. And WhatsApp was hemorrhaging money, but guess what they had? They had 1 billion users. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about synergies. Mm-hmm. And then celebrity endorsements. We have a client that's working with Oprah. Competitors, strategics will pay a lot of money for that because everybody wants to get their products in front of the queen of everything. Radio personalities, content. These are all synergies that will maximize your sales price and drive value. And then the fifth P is patrons. This is your customer base. And most businesses follow that 80-20 rule, where 80% of their revenue is tied up in 20% of their clients. And if you lose a few clients, you can literally lose most of your revenue and practically go out of business. So you want customer diversification, not customer concentration. The last P, the most important P to all of us entrepreneurs, is profits. You would be surprised, Josh, how many companies are not profitable. And I always say lack of profits is not your problem. Clients come to me all the time and say, Michelle, I have a profit problem. I'm like, no, you have a people problem. No, you have a process problem. Lack of profits is a symptom of. It's not the problem itself. 3 out of 5 companies are embezzled every year. They have a problem. They have an embezzlement problem that is causing lack of profits.
Oh, yeah.
An embezzlement issue is because of processes. They don't have those processes buttoned up, but they have checks and balances to make sure somebody's not stealing from them. So those are your 6 Ps. Wonderful.
And I think, like I was saying to Michelle earlier before I hit the record button, I think we only got through 2 last time when she came on. So I'm like, I'm glad we got all 6 done now. But that's interesting, especially like the embezzlement part. Would that be more, I'm just curious, like, how do you look at that for when you're assessing a company? How do you tell them to address the embezzling problem?
What do you mean? Like we're in the middle of selling the business?
You're just observing it. You're not in the process yet to start selling it, but you're like, hey, I noticed you have like this kind of problem. That might be a hiccup.
That actually did happen to me in a company we were doing due diligence on. And there were 2 companies that the owner owned. And the owner had actually been embezzled 6 times before.
Did he know, or he just didn't care?
He just didn't know. And he took, so business owners get busy working in their business. He was busy working in his business. He's busy traveling all over the world because they did business all over the world. He didn't have the proper checks and balances. He didn't have the proper, accounting firm checking to make sure nobody was stealing money from him. And so if he couldn't do it himself, he should have got somebody where that's their strength. You get an accounting firm to make sure that they, put in those checks and balances and make sure that nobody's stealing. But anyway, in one of his companies, I caught he had an in-house CPA in one of the companies that his son was running, and she was hiding things. She was hiding. Like I kept asking, well, I need the payables, I need the receivables, I need the P&Ls, I need all this, because we're 3 days away from closing. And she was hiding things. And I told the owner, I said, I think she's stealing from you. He said, no way in the world is she stealing. Well, come to find out, she was stealing. They did catch her, and she got fired by the new owner. So I was right. So, what do I tell them? I tell them, well, if I'm observing it, look, they've got to have, you can't just have one person looking at something, because you can have a CFO and a CFO could be stealing you blind and you have no clue. Get an accounting firm to inspect what that CFO is doing. Make sure you have eyes to check the eyes. Make sure you have, like I said, your checks and balances in place, and make sure somebody else, if you're not going to review it yourself, you need to have somebody else, maybe an external accounting firm, like I said.
Yeah, usually in one that's not like no correlation to your, no correlation to like any people in your business. So there's it's relatively unbiased kind of thing.
Correct.
Yeah, because I knew someone.
There's an attorney friend of mine who was being embezzled from his own daughter. She stole millions.
My one
millions from her own father. She's an attorney too, and she stole millions from her father. And then she taught an attorney coming in how to do it, and then that attorney stole millions from this attorney. Yeah, you have to have more than anything else in your company. You have to have those checks and balances, and you have to have that outside, firm that can inspect it. Like nobody in my company writes checks other than me. I mean, yes, I have other companies that I own that I'm a partner in, and I inspect what I expect with my partners. But in my companies, nobody else writes the checks with me. My CPA writes them and I sign them. And it's an external CPA.
Yeah. And that one of my martial arts buddies, a very successful recycling guy. He has contracts with Tesla for like aluminum and all that. And it was just one of those, he was complaining to me, and I'm like, you're not a man that usually complains. Why are you complaining? He's like, oh, well, someone's stealing money from me. And I knew his kids worked for him. I was like, shitty to say, do you think it's your kids? He's like, no, I wouldn't. I'm like, that's probably exactly, they know that. And that's exactly why they're doing it. Because you wouldn't think down on them like that.
And what did he say?
Well, he kind of like, okay, whatever. And he goes and does a couple things for like a month or two, and then comes back and he's like, you're right. I'm like, it's just one of those, just thinking like them. Dad wouldn't second guess us if the papers are off, kind of thing.
And that is absolutely terrible that kids will steal from their parents. I have a daughter who's 11.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't steal things. She might steal a piece of candy out of my purse. She doesn't steal money. But that's just terrible. That's terrible that kids would steal from their parents. I would never.
Yeah. And it was just one of those, after that, it was just told him, I'm like, because he said something's off with the books though. Like I'm still losing money, even though I've like cut that stream off. So he works on his business, not in it. So he has multiple satellite recycling places throughout the States. I said, hey, you've mentioned your Wyoming one a lot. And he's like, yes, one of my kids worked there. I'll check it out. I didn't come to find out.
Did he ever hold his kids accountable?
He never sued him or pressed any charges, but yeah, he cut him out of everything. They don't get the will. They don't get anything now.
Because I was going to say, maybe growing up, he didn't really hold them accountable when they did stuff, and maybe that's why they thought they could get away with it.
Maybe. Some of those I don't ask about his past life. We're there for like 30 minutes to go the punch and train, and it's like, so tell me about your past life. What was it like with the kids? We don't have time for that. But
that's probably one of the things. I can guarantee you didn't hold them accountable when they were young.
Or being the hardcore entrepreneur that he is, he probably just was never there. He was always working on his business.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm just curious because I mentioned the recycling business. Have you ever tried to sell a recycling gig like that one before?
Like what one?
Like a recycling empire where he processes pallets, aluminum, copper, etc.
There's still lots of recycling plants.
How old are they? Is this one of those, especially with the ESG movement? Is it a Blockbuster or is it an Amazon or is it a middle one like a Home Depot?
I would say it's maybe a middle one, but if he's got contracts with Elon Musk, that's going to be valuable.
Oh yeah,
extremely valuable.
He's the only sole proprietor that gets all the messed up Tesla doors.
Yeah, that's extremely valuable.
Oh yeah, I told him like just that name alone, I'd pay a little extra.
Name along, and that's why when you go to start your company, you want to hire an expert who knows how to value businesses, not just on the numbers by itself, but on those synergies, like contracts with Tesla. I mean, that's huge.
It is, and then I guess he has a contract with a light making company in Mexico, and he is the only one that gets all the scrap copper.
Contracts are probably not transferable.
Probably. And they do have to renew. I would say they probably have to renew it every 3 or 5 years too.
Well, that's fine. Renew, that's fine. Not having transferability clause is a kiss of death.
Yeah. See, he probably didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I was joking with him because I was learning business, and I said, "Hey, your business is actually one of those. Yes, it's more networking, but it's a very rudimentary but effective. It's not going anywhere business. Would you think of taking me on as a mentor? Like, well, you be my mentor, I'd be your apprentice, learn how," because he's up in his age. He's like 70, pushing 80. He said, eventually you're going to die. Hate to say it, but you are. I'm like, but do you have anyone in place to take your position? And he's like, no, I don't. I'm like, so when you die, your multi-million-dollar company with your 200 plus to 300 employees is just going to die, and you're going to literally screw 300 families. I'm like, why don't you have anyone in place? Yeah. And he's like, I assumed. I'm like, you're not immortal. We all know that. If you were immortal, you'd be way richer than you are now.
And the kids won't be stealing from you.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But that's where it was just one of those. He's like, yeah. So again, a couple months passed by, and he one of his sons started a marble business, like placing and buying marble for cheap. And so that son said, when you pass that, I know your business, I'll take over. I'll just incorporate the marble on my own or sell it to someone else. Because he's like, your business is way more lucrative than mine is. But I'm like, good, at least you got someone.
Right.
I'm like, let's just think about the 300 families you almost just screwed over for that. So, but let's say a young tech startup is approaching you, and they're maybe like 5 years in, they're already making profits. It's a very, very SaaS-based subscription. How would you calculate that? Let's say it's like an online coaching, essentially.
So if it's a SaaS company, it's the only industry that's a multiple of revenues, not a multiple of EBITDA.
Okay.
And so it's a multiple of revenues.
So as long as the revenue is consistent or growing, then it's valuable?
Yeah, I mean, buyers don't want to buy a failing business. They want to buy a business that's trending down. But, it's always important to look at why is that business trending down. Is it trending down because the owner has health issues, the owner has cancer? Is it trending down because there's a nasty divorce? Is it trending down because, you want to see what's the real reason the business is trending down. A lot of times the SaaS businesses, the owner is out there starting a new SaaS business, and then a new SaaS business takes their eyes off the first ones, and that can cause it to trend down. So you want to look at why it's trending down. But look, buyers want to buy businesses that are going up, not down. And they want to buy, businesses that have growth year over year over year.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where like something like a middle ground, like a Home Depot, it's not going anywhere. We're not going to get rid of a store like that anytime soon. At least that I know.
You don't know that. We didn't think that Toys R Us was going anywhere.
I actually did, but okay.
I mean, you just never can say never, because Amazon has put so many businesses out of business. Walmart's put so many businesses out of business.
Amazon's about to just knock Walmart out of the online game.
Yeah. So I don't know. We say Home Depot's going to be around forever. Maybe it will. But I always say, if they don't continue to innovate my market, they won't be.
Very true. Very true.
That's what killed Toys R Us. Toys R Us stopped innovating. They didn't do anything new in 75 years. Businesses have life cycles, just like humans do. Mm-hmm. Businesses start in an incubator, just like a human does. Mm-hmm. And then the baby gets out of the incubator. It can't take care of itself. It needs supervision 24/7. The baby business needs supervision. The baby infant business needs supervision 24/7. It needs everything done for it. It can't do anything on its own. And then the baby human goes from infant to toddler, so does the baby business. And so what's the toddler do? Destroys everything in its path. So does the baby business. And it still needs 24 hours supervision. And then it goes the toddler to the teenager. What's a teenager do? Distraught. They might not need as much 24/7 supervision, but they need a lot of money. They need a lot of money and a lot of guidance. And then it goes from a teenager to an adult. An adult is when you're in your prime. Adult is when a young adult, we're not really in your prime. A young adult, you're really starting to get your shit together and figure it all out. And so it's adult business. They're starting to figure it all out. They don't need as much supervision. They don't need as much money. And then you go from the young adult to the adult. And in your adult phase is when you're in your prime. That's when you're the best you'll ever be. That's when you're in your prime. The adult business is in its prime. And if you looked at Toys R Us when they were in adult business, they were worth I think 30 billion, I think it was. They had stores all over the world. 1 year later, they started closing down stores. 2 years later, they filed bankruptcy and went completely out of business. They went from adults to senior citizen in 2 years. And then they went from senior citizen to death.
Yep.
And that was 2 years and closed everything down. So you see how business follows the human cycle. So there's a cycle of business just like there is the human life cycle.
There is.
Right?
It really is. And my cheeky comment earlier about I knew it was going to go at a young age. I would go to Toys R Us with my grandparents. But this is when the Xbox first came out. It was not even like the 360 and where it is now, like the Xbox whatever series. So I would go and play free games, but I would never buy anything. And that's where even I told my grandma, I'm like, okay, if I'm coming in and not buying anything, how are they able to pay for all this stuff kind of thing?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm literally coming in to play on their Xbox and then go after.
They were hoping you were going to buy a game, right?
Right.
You're going to talk to grandparents into buying a game. But that's why they went out of business. Same thing with Disney. I mean, all the Disney stores closed up. Mm-hmm. Last year, all the Disney stores went out of business. But it's because they're not innovating. Toys R Us didn't really do anything new. They tried online, but they didn't try it very well. And they never really innovated. It's kind of like Apple. Apple would not be where Apple is if Steve Jobs didn't come back. Steve Jobs came back and said, we have to create to demand. We have to create to demand.
Right.
And then people will run. People will stand in line for hours upon hours upon hours to buy the new iPhone, the new iPad, the new this, the new that. I mean, Steve Jobs created this entire market with the iPhone and the iPods and the iPad. I remember the first time I heard about the iPad, I'm like, that's the most stupid thing I ever heard. Why would anybody buy an iPad when I can have a laptop?
Right.
And now I have 6 of them in my company. And you go to doctor's offices and they all have iPads. You go to dealerships, car dealerships, they all have iPads. You go to service places, they all have iPads. So he was preemptive. He was preemptive for sure. You got to go out there and figure out what nobody else is doing and what the problems are, be a solution be solution oriented, and then create the demand. Steve Jobs created the demand. The demand was never there before, right?
Right.
Right. So he didn't just go copy everybody else. He didn't just go copy Samsung and try to get half of their market share. He created that demand and got all their market share.
Yeah. And when they're comparing devices, it's like Apple, Samsung, everything else.
Yeah. So you got to go out there and create that demand. And I always tell clients, don't just learn from your industry. Learn from people who are doing it the best. Learn from Apple. Learn from the Ritz-Carlton. Learn from Walt Disney World. Learn from Sam Walton, Sam's Club. I mean, learn from these businesses. Don't just learn in your industry. There's so many lessons that you can learn from just Steve Jobs alone in Apple. There are so many lessons that you can incorporate into your own industry.
Oh, yeah. And it was some of the best ones are like the ones he would just say during interviews offhandedly. It's like, how did you think of this? He's like, I didn't think of that. I hired someone really smart to figure that out for me.
Which is why I said earlier with people, surround yourself around people who are smarter than you. Hire your strengths, hire your weaknesses, focus on your strengths, hire people. It's kind of like Donald Trump. Love him or hate him, who cares?
Right.
His right-hand man was George Ross. Donald Trump would go in there and, run these crazy deals because he was such a visionary and say, I could do this and this and this and this. And George Ross was like, okay, let's see how we make this legal. Let's see how we can pay for this and make this stick, right? Without George Ross, Donald Trump's deals would never got done.
Oh, yeah. He'd promise a million things and barely deliver one or two.
Well, I'm not going to say that. You're talking about in politics? Because I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about his buildings and everything else he's built.
Oh, no, I was just talking in general. But yeah, okay.
So, but he had a great man behind him. Whether you love him or hate him, it doesn't matter. He had a great man behind him that made those deals. Without George Ross, half of his real estate deals would never take place.
Very
so
true.
behind every great man, a great entrepreneur is an integrator. George Ross was an integrator. He's an attorney, but he's an integrator.
Yeah. I'm loving it. I'm assuming you have already another meeting booked up for an hour.
I do.
So definitely, hopefully we can get you on again in the future sometime. I got 3 going out questions for you.
Okay.
So other than work, what have you been doing to keep yourself hang on. Other than work, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy during these COVID lockdown times?
Well, first of all, we've been out of lockdown.
I know. I need to change that.
Yes, you do. We've been out of lockdown since 2020, but I was never locked down.
Okay.
I refused to be locked down. I came to my office every day. I told my building last year because they didn't want us to come. And I said, you know what? Just stop charging me rent. If you don't want me to come, just stop charging me rent. As long as I'm paying rent, I'm coming to my office and you can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I came to my office every day. Everybody else I let work from home. It's just me and one of my transaction facilitators came in the office with me every day. It was just the 2 of us. Everybody else worked from home. So I really wasn't under lockdown. But I did get to do different things. Like I did take up bike riding with my daughter. So we started bike riding a lot, took up tennis, started playing tennis, spent more time with her because she was home, all the kids were home. And I did have a nanny / teacher that was teaching her at home. But I did come to my office every single day, 5 days a week. There was times I might have went in 4 days a week, but I didn't stop working. I didn't stop helping my clients. My clients were in dire need of advice and support, during those times. I told my clients, kind of the opposite of what other people tell them, cut your purse strings, stop marketing, stop doing all that. I said, no. Cut out the expenses that don't serve you, but you double down on marketing. You find out what works for you and you double down in those areas. So I was here for my clients. We couldn't go to restaurants or anything like that. But, there's some amazing restaurants in New Orleans that are very creative, innovative. Like Commander Palace did a wine and cheese thing. So they charge people $50, $75, $100, $150 for different levels of wine and cheese. And they would all go on Zoom all around the world and have a wine and cheese event. That was really cool. And one of my friends bought that for me and my husband. And we did that in the backyard by a swimming pool. We got together with neighbors and things like that. We bought tests. So we would test everybody that came over.
Right.
And we would just have like little parties at our house. It was tough. But I think if I would have went to work every day, it would have been so much harder for me.
Oh, yeah. I would say you definitely need to be doing something.
Yeah.
Stay at home. You'd just be like, I need to build something now.
Yeah.
So the second question is someone that's inspired to be like you, a successful businesswoman, a family, a mom with a family. What are some tips, tricks, or advice you give them to start down a similar path?
Give them tricks. I'm sorry. What was I give who?
Someone aspiring to be like you. What are some tips, tricks, or advice to start similar?
Like a mom.
A mom and a bit successful businesswoman.
Yeah. So, I was just on a woman's podcast the other day, and I said, one of the things I said was balance is a myth, just like multitasking is a myth. Nobody can really truly multitask well. Something suffers. I don't really I believe balance is a myth. I do. I believe it's really tough for women to have balance and have a company. And I think women put a lot of pressure on themselves, that they have to be perfect in every way. They're expected to clean the house, get the dishes, they're expected to do the laundry, expected to take care of the kids, expected to do homework, expected to run the business. There's a lot of pressure on women. And I tell them that balance is a myth, but you do have to separate business from home. When I go home, I separate business. I leave my business baggage at the door. When I walk in the door of my home, I spend quality time with my daughter. I unplug. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. There are stay-at-home moms that spend every waking day with their children, but might not have that quality time with them because they're taking care of 3 or 4 kids, and they got their hands full. And I always say quality is better than quantity. To unplug, like last Friday, and my daughter was in spring break last week, so I took off Friday and I took off Monday. And yesterday was her day. We came to the office for a little bit because I had a Zoom call I could not get rid of. But she loves it. She loves coming here. I'm like, let's go do something fun. And she's like, this is fun for me. I go, well, no, we're getting out of the office. We're going to go do call because otherwise I'll be working all day. So I went out and did everything she wanted to do. Same thing with last Friday. So I think you really got to spend quality time and unplug. And I think for women, it's very, very important to realize you don't have to do it all. Nobody says you have to do it all. It's unrealistic to do it all. You got to really keep a diary for 30 days and write down everything you do from the minute you get up and brush your teeth to the minute you go to bed. And then once you do that for 30 days, there's 3 buckets I want you to create. Your A bucket, your B bucket, your C bucket. Men can do this too. And your A bucket is everything that only can be done by you. Only you can brush your teeth.
Right.
Somebody else can do it, but it's gross.
It's a little awkward too.
Only you can shower yourself. Yeah, somebody else can do it, but that's another talk show. So you really got to look at the things that only you can do. You're not the only one that can do laundry. You're not the only one that can go grocery shopping. You're not the only one that can order online. You're not the only one that can go to a dry cleaner. So you got to look at your business, first of all, and say, okay, in my business, and this is great advice for business owners. What's in your A bucket? These are tasks that only you can do. You can't really delegate it. Like for instance, I've been on 400 podcasts. I'm the only one that can really go on the podcast. Nobody from my team can really go on these podcasts. I write books and I type every word in my books. Not a ghostwriter, nobody else writes for me. I tried that, it doesn't work. Nobody else can write books for me. I negotiate multi-million dollar deals. Nobody else in my company has that core competency like I do. So those are my 3 big things that nobody else can do. But guess what? Bucket B are those things that you're really good at that you can delegate. Like I'm really good at evaluations. I delegate that out to my analyst team. I'm really good at writing prospectuses because I'm a writer. I dedicate that out to my analyst and marketing team. So bucket B is stuff you're good at, but you shouldn't do. Because what we're focused on right now, we're doing this exercise, and what women need to focus on, really people in general, is focus on energy management, not time management. 100%. We get drained when we get drained because we're doing too many things. We have too many things open. If your computer has too many things open, what happens?
It gets really shitty.
It gets really slow and shitty and shuts down. What happens with your phone if you got too many things open on your phone?
It drains the battery and everything.
Drains the battery. So guess what happens to us entrepreneurs? If we are trying to do everything and be everything for everybody, it drains our batteries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about time, it's about energy. So bucket C are those things you should never do. Like grocery shopping, cleaning the house. I don't clean my house, and people are going to listen to this and say, well, Michelle, I can't afford to do that. Guess what? You need to really take stock. You need to really take inventory and see what your time is worth. What is your time worth? What are you making your business? Is it $15 an hour? Is it $20 an hour, $25 an hour, $100 an hour? And then you need to hire that out. So let's say that you're making $15 an hour. Well, look at how much, if you're making $30,000 a year, can you afford to get somebody to clean a house once a month or twice a month? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta look at what your time is worth. And if your time is worth, $100 an hour, then you can afford to pay somebody $15 an hour, or you can afford to pay somebody $150 to clean the house. So the problem is you can't run your business, tend to your husband, tend to your spouse, tend to your kids, and try to do all these other things. It's an energy drainer, and you end up not being good for anybody, especially yourself.
Absolutely. No, that's just great knowledge. I love it. So where can everyone contact you at?
So everybody can find me at Seiler-Tucker.com. If you're interested in the 6P analysis to see how you score, go to Seiler-Tucker Academy and take the 6P quiz. Follow me on social media, Michelle Seiler-Tucker. Listen to my podcast on Exit Rich. And most importantly, you got to go buy Exit Rich. So let's talk about Exit Rich real quick.
Okay.
Exit Rich was endorsed by Steve Forbes, who says, Exit Rich is a goldmine for business owners, as most business owners leave too much money on the table when they go to sell their business, and 80% of businesses will never sell in the first place. It was my co-author, Sharon Lechter, who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. She's a CPA, financial literacy expert. She's been the advisor to President Obama. I think it was President Bush. So she's been the advisor to many different presidents. And then Kevin Harrington, original Shark on Shark Tank, wrote the foreword. So Exit Rich is not just about selling your business. Who is Exit Rich for? Exit Rich is for any entrepreneur, anybody starting a business, buying a business, anyone who owns a business, even a management team, because Exit Rich is not just about selling. The first half of Exit Rich is all about how to build a sustainable business that you can scale. And when you're ready, you'll have a sellable asset, and you won't sell for pennies on the dollar. You will actually sell for a tremendous amount of money, and you will be able to exit rich, not exit poor. And so I have the printed version that was launched, that we talked about, Josh, last year. But now guess what, Josh? We have the audio version out. You can go get that audio version today because it's only available for the month of May. So go get it today. Don't delay. And that audio version is available for $2.99. After May, it's going to go back up to $25. $2.99 is less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
Especially in California.
And guess what else you get? You get
What?
all the documents that go with it. So Exit Rich. So you get the audio version, but you get all the supplements. Plus, you are an Exit Rich Club member for life, which entitles you to have access to Seiler-Tucker Academy, where all the documents are to operate your business and sell your business. So we have sample operation, policy and procedure manuals, sample org chart, sample non-compete, sample employee contracts. To sell your business, we have sample prospectuses. We have sample LOIs, letter of intent, purchase agreements, due diligence checklists. We have closing docs. All these documents cost me over $50,000 to create for $2.99. Not only do you get the audio version, but you also get all the documents that go with it. So go out and get your copy today of Exit Rich audio. You can buy that at Amazon. You can buy that at Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, any of those locations. Go out today and get Exit Rich audio version. You'll love it.
Wonderful. I'm going to go buy it just for the documents you just told about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great value. It's the best $2.99 you ever spend in your entire life.
It is. Absolute honor and a pleasure to have you on again.
Thanks, Josh. It was a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me back on.
Anytime.
Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're an awesome person. Not many make it here. So, being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? Can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using. If you do it on Apple, and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations, you're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. Watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel. Change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome, and see you next time.